r/malicious compliance. Only work the posted hours. Many years ago I worked at a place with lots of arcade games and pizza, similar to Chuck E. Cheese. I was hired to do maintenance, repair, and setup of these arcade machines. There was already someone there doing this, but they were never allowed to work more than 40 hours a week, and the place was open 7 days a week, 9 hours a day, 63 hours a week, not including prep for opening and cleanup after closing. At the end of my first shift I was told that I was also expected to help with cleanup, since everyone that worked close had to help with cleanup. All my shifts were close shifts. This meant I had less time before my morning classes than I expected when taking the job, but a few extra bucks was valuable to a starving college student. Fast forward about 2 months. New manager, fresh out of high school, gets his big boy boots on and starts making rules. First rule: a schedule with everyone's hours for the next week will be posted by Friday morning. Second rule: you must clock in before your posted shift start time, but not more than 5 minutes before your shift. Third rule: you must clock out at the end of your posted shift end time, no more than 5 minutes after. At the end of my first shift, after these rules were created, I clocked out and left everyone else to do the cleanup. To be clear, it's not like I was getting time and a half overtime or anything. All I expected was to be paid my normal rate, and they didn't want to pay even that, so I clocked out and left. At the beginning of my next shift they were angry. They expected me to clock out and then work over an hour for free, every single shift. These were only 5-hour shifts too. I refused. The next week they posted a new schedule with my shift ending an hour later. Since everyone saw the list, they all got mad. I guess they were all just fine with wage theft until one person refused. The next week everyone had an extra hour on their shifts. At this point his wage theft scheme had failed. Fast forward a couple weeks and this new manager doesn't come in on Thursday. He doesn't come in until Monday. No schedule is posted. Monday afternoon I go in to get my check and say, "See you next week." I'm told my shift started half an hour ago. I say I made plans since I wasn't on the schedule. No schedule means I couldn't be on it. The manager point to a schedule posted on the wall, printed just hours before, after some of the shifts on it had already started. I thanked him for posting next week's schedule early and started to leave. Then I was threatened with termination, and I kept walking. Came back a week later and talked with the daytime guy doing the same job. He said it was a bad week. Many machines were down and he was walking around with like $100 in tokens because he was spending much of his time giving refunds, to the point he didn't have enough uninterrupted time to make any repairs. He was also keeping a roll of masking tape with him to tape over the coin slots as the machines failed. This meant a lot more use on the remaining machines, which started to show it quickly. I go to clock in and was told I had been fired. I smiled and walked out. Spoke with the daytime guy a while later. Apparently they never filled my position. People with mechanical and electrical knowledge willing to work minimum wage are rare. Instead he was getting 14 hours a week in time and a half overtime, with a base pay almost twice what I was getting. This extra expense came out of the department budget, which also paid for replacement parts. Even before this it was never enough to buy enough parts. This from the department budget thing was from the same manager. He didn't want normal payroll to go up. For a while basically everyone was carrying around $20 in tokens to give refunds, but all the comps were unacceptable to the manager, so now only the sales desk could issue refunds, which meant ordering pizza took forever and many people just left angry rather than waiting for a refund. Most machines had tape over the token slots. This backup at the sales desk didn't last long, as few people were coming and no one was booking parties anymore. Other than staff it was basically empty. It didn't even smell like pizza anymore. With no customers, the daytime guy finally had time to make repairs, but didn't have the parts to do most repairs. As far as I know, that manager stayed there until the place went under 8 months after I was fired for not working a shift that his own rules said I could not work. TLDR, new manager's rules and laziness combine to destroy a once thriving business. Edit. A few people ask, so here are a few more details. 1. There was a previous manager that wasn't great but wasn't trying wage theft or any of that mess. Generally things worked smoothly under her and there was a long waiting list for booking parties. She was let go as soon as this guy graduated. I do not know why, but I assume nepotism. I could be wrong about that, maybe she was doing something that got her fired, but if that was the case then there were at least 10 people that were more qualified for the job. I never met the owner or even knew his/her name. 2. It was entirely possible to clock in and out more than 5 minutes outside of your scheduled shift, you just wouldn't be paid for that time. Everyone that stayed late clocked out late, and I'm pretty sure none of them got paid for that extra time. I know I clocked out late a few times and didn't get paid for the extra time. 3. I worked closing shift on the Sunday before the Monday that I walked out. The previous week's schedule was still posted at that time and I had not been scheduled to work on Monday or Tuesday of that week. I even asked the woman running the show that night about the new schedule and she didn't know, but assumed we were just following the previous schedule. No one called me after the new schedule was posted. I was in the middle of a school-related project and only stopped by to get my check, deposit it, and get back to the project. If he hadn't tried to force me to work that day I probably would have worked the schedule from the previous week, but him being a bully made me follow his rules to the letter. 4. Even if I was in the wrong to take the week off, he should have been painfully aware what happened when I was gone for a whole week. Firing me when I was about to start working on cleaning up the mess he started was next level incompetence. 5. The daytime guy was no moron, but he also didn't really understand a lot of the machines. When I started I had been repairing electronics as a part-time job/hobby for years, and finding and replacing a single bad part on a $500 plus arcade board was usually pretty easy for me. Sometimes the repairs looked insane because I had to work with what I could find at Radio Shack, but they worked. Daytime guy was great with mechanical stuff, but when I started the soldering iron was in a dust-covered box because he had basically never touched it. He didn't even have the correct type of solder, he had stuff meant for plumbing repairs. When I left, cheap board level repairs turned into expensive board replacements that there was no budget for. Before I got there this wasn't a big issue because previous management always allocated extra money rather than having a machine just remain dead. New manager did not do this, not sure why, but if I had to guess it's because he didn't want to explain why these expensive board replacements stopped and started again perfectly in line with my time there. Someone else was obviously watching the books, or else he wouldn't have played games with how to pay daytime guy all that overtime. Your trash cans may only be out at specific times. We live in an HOA, and if you don't, lucky you. We have never had any real problems, they don't do much other than make sure the park and gardens look good. Anyhow, for whatever reason, they decided to add a new rule. It wasn't needed, but I guess they got bored and wanted something to do. Maybe someone kept leaving their trash cans out all week. Fine, just ask them not to. It's not that hard. The new rule states when trash cans can be put out. They can't be out before 6 a.m. on Wednesdays and must be put back before 6 p.m. the same day. This is obviously stupid and has a few problems. First of all, some people use a different company. The HOA provided one goes on Wednesday and it's cheap, so most people use it, but you don't have to. Some people have theirs go Monday or Tuesday. Also, a lot of people here work in the medical field and just aren't home during those times. So no one is there to put out or bring in cans. So, a few of us got together on how to comply, but be annoying about it. We decided to comply with their set times as best we can. Take it out at 6 when a lot of us go to work or go for a morning walk, and take it back in at 6 since most of us are home. Some of us help by taking others' bins to the street if they're at work. But, when it is time to take out the trash, do it as loud as fucking possible. Bin has wheels? Drag it? Got it to the street, make sure it's firmly placed on the street. Need to take out other bag? Slap it in there and let the lid slam shut. For those who have trash go out on other days, comply with the times, but do in on your trash day. Then, also put them out on Wednesday as required. If you can, leave trash in them and leave the lid open to it would bake in the sun all day. Yes, it did smell like hot trash. That's the point. After 3 weeks of this, an email was sent out. The rule was thrown out, and we were all simply asked to put out and take in our cans within a reasonable amount of time, preferably on trash day. Was it really that fucking hard to ask nicely? Why not just address whoever was the problem? Know that, because an HOA rule was changed, a lawyer was paid to look over it before the CCNR could be updated. That means this stupid rule cost every resident money. Anyhow, we are already planning on voting out one member of the board who we know is the problem come the summer election. Comply with Bridezilla or leave, okay. My friend, Gemma, tells me about how she and an entire group of bridesmaids left a wedding after their friend dared them to. So this all happened a few weeks ago. A longtime friend of Gemma's group was getting married in another state, but the day of the wedding she suddenly had a problem with one girl who wore glasses, which she didn't have an issue with beforehand. The glasses girl told her she wouldn't wear them during the vows and pictures, but the Bridezilla didn't want her wearing them at all and was screaming at her to not put them on for the rest of the day. Obviously she couldn't do that since she needs to. See. The argument got more heated until Bridezilla gave her the ultimatum to take them off and keep them off or leave. This is when Gemma and the other bridesmaids stepped in, told Bridezilla she was out of line, and that they would all leave if she forced the girl with glasses to leave. Bridezilla called their bluff and, being maids of honor, the bridesmaids left the wedding and decided to celebrate and eat at a restaurant before they head back home. Bridezilla called them several times after they left, telling them that she didn't care about the glasses anymore and begged them to come back to the venue, but they not only refused but also chose to end the friendship with her altogether. Gemma said that the wedding proceeded as follows, just minus the bridesmaids and a few awkward stares because everyone heard the Bridezilla screaming from earlier. Gemma told me that the Bridezilla has always been like this, throwing a tantrum when she doesn't get her way, and that the meltdown at the wedding was just the last straw for them. Personally, I think she's got a monk's patience if she put up with her for that long.